Welcome to IELTS Voice, where we create videos which help in your IELTS speaking test. This video covers the full IELTS speaking test, Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3 on the topic of childhood memory. Every question has a complete Band 8 model answer, so you can see exactly what excellent looks and sounds like across all three parts. Watch it once to learn. Watch it again to practice alongside the model answers. By the end, you will know this topic inside out. Let's get into it. Part 1. The Interview. Do you work or are you a student?
So, I am actually a student at the moment. I am studying business, which I genuinely enjoy most of the time. It keeps me fairly busy, but I think that is probably a good thing.
What do you enjoy most about your studies?
Honestly, the thing I enjoy most is probably the discussions. When you get a group of people with different perspectives on something and just let the conversation go wherever it needs to go. That is when studying feels less like work and more like something worth doing.
Do you think the subjects you study will be useful in the future?
I think so, yes, though maybe not in the way I expected when I started. I think the most useful thing I have learned is less about specific content and more about how to think through a problem. That feels like something that transfers to almost anything.
Where are you from originally?
I am from a fairly mid-sized city known as Calamba in the Philippines. Not huge, not tiny. The kind of place where everyone sort of knows the same areas and the same spots. It has a certain comfortable familiarity to it, honestly.
What do you like most about your hometown?
What I like most is probably how easy it is to get around. Everything is within a reasonable distance of everything else, which sounds like a small thing, but it actually makes daily life feel much less stressful than it might be in a larger city. There is a kind of unhurried quality to it that I have come to appreciate more the older I get.
Has your hometown changed much since you were a child?
It has, actually, quite a bit in some ways. There is a lot more development now, more traffic, more of those chain shops that look the same everywhere you go. Some of it is genuinely an improvement. But some of the older character of the place has definitely been lost along the way, which is a shame.
What do you enjoy doing in your free time?
I read quite a lot, actually. Mostly fiction, though I go through phases. And I walk. I know that sounds very unexciting, but I find that a long walk sorts out most things, whether that is a problem I am stuck on or just a mood I cannot shake.
Have your hobbies changed since you were younger?
Quite a lot, yeah. When I was younger, it was all very active. Sport, being outside constantly, that kind of thing. These days, I am drawn more to quieter activities. I think as you get older, you become more interested in things that give you genuine mental space, rather than just physical outlet.
Do you prefer spending free time alone or with other people?
Honestly, both, depending on my mood. I need time alone to feel properly rested, but too much of it and I start to feel a bit flat. The ideal for me is probably a good mix. Some time with people I genuinely enjoy being around, and then enough quiet time to actually process things properly.
Describe a memorable experience from your childhood. You should say what happened, who was there, where it took place, and explain why it has stayed with you.
So the memory that comes to mind immediately, and it is funny because it is not a dramatic one on the surface, is the summer I learned to swim. Or more specifically, the exact moment when everything suddenly clicked into place and I realized, with this kind of disbelieving joy, that I was actually doing it. I was around 7 or 8, I think. Every summer, our family would spend time near this lake, wide, still, surrounded by tall trees. Beautiful place, actually. And I had been terrified of deep water for as long as I could remember. Not just a mild unease, a genuine physical fear the kind that takes hold of you the moment the water rises above your waist. I used to just stand at the edge, watching other kids throw themselves in with complete abandon, and I genuinely could not understand how they did it. It made no sense to me. My father was endlessly patient with me, honestly. Every single day that summer, he would wade in beside me, hold me just below the surface, and tell me to stop fighting the water, to let it hold me rather than trying to hold myself up. It took me the better part of 2 weeks to really understand what he meant. And then, one morning, I am still not sure what was different about that particular morning. I just pushed away from his hands and kept going. The water took my weight. My arms found a rhythm, and for a few seconds that felt much longer than they actually were, I was swimming. I remember the feeling with almost physical clarity even now. This mixture of shock and elation that I had never experienced before. And I think what stayed with me was not just the achievement. It was this realization that fear and capability can occupy exactly the same space. The only thing separating them is the willingness to let go. I carry that with me still, not just as a memory, but as a reminder, really, of what becomes possible when you stop resisting something and just trust the process.
Why do certain childhood memories stay with people for their entire lives?
I think it comes down to emotional intensity, honestly. The memories that stay are almost never the ordinary ones, not the average Tuesday afternoon or a typical school lunch. They are the moments that made us feel something powerful and unexpected. There is also a neurological dimension to this, actually. Research suggests that memories formed during moments of heightened emotion get encoded more deeply in the brain, which is why a single afternoon from childhood can feel more vivid decades later than something that happened last week. I find that genuinely fascinating. But I also think, and this might be the deeper reason, it is about meaning. The memories we hold on to are often the ones we have unconsciously decided tell us something true about who we are. We hold on to them not just because they were intense, but because they still feel relevant somehow.
How does a person's childhood shape their adult personality?
Profoundly, I think, though the relationship is more complex than it is often presented. The environment we grow up in, the values modeled by the people around us, the challenges we face or are protected from, the freedom we are given or denied, all of that leaves marks. It shapes how we approach relationships and risk and failure as adults. But I am reluctant to suggest childhood is destiny. People are remarkably capable of growth and genuine self-revision. Lots of adults consciously choose to think and behave differently from how they were raised, and succeed. So I would say, childhood gives us our starting conditions. It does not write the whole story. It just determines the point from which we begin to write it ourselves, which I find a more hopeful way of thinking about it, honestly.
Do children today have better or worse childhoods than previous generations?
It is genuinely difficult to make a simple comparison, because what has improved in some areas has really deteriorated in others. In material terms, access to healthcare, education, physical safety, children in many parts of the world are better off than previous generations, and those are not small things. But in terms of unstructured time, freedom to explore, and exposure to boredom, which is actually essential for developing creativity and self-regulation, many children today are considerably worse off. That shift towards heavily scheduled, screen-mediated childhoods is something I find genuinely concerning. So, better in some ways, worse in others. And the ways it is worse are perhaps less visible, but no less significant.
How important is play in a child's development?
Absolutely fundamental, and one of the most undervalued aspects of childhood in modern educational culture. Play is not simply how children entertain themselves, it is how they learn to negotiate, take risks, manage failure, collaborate, and develop a sense of who they are independent of adult direction. That is significant developmental work. It just does not look like work. My concern is that as academic pressure has moved earlier and earlier into childhood, play has been displaced by structured learning. And the long-term consequences of that, in terms of emotional regulation, creativity, and mental health, are only beginning to become clear. If I could argue for one change in how we approach childhood education, it would be to restore unstructured play to the center of a child's day. Not as a reward for finishing work, but as work itself. That reframing, I think, is everything.
Now let's pull out the most powerful phrases from today's full test, the ones that made the biggest difference across all three parts. We will start with the phrases from parts 1 and 2, then move to part 3. 1. A kind of unhurried quality to it. This came up in part 1 when describing a hometown, but it works for any place, any pace of life. It is far more expressive than the words slow or relaxed. Use it whenever you want to describe a calm atmosphere without sounding basic. 2. The most useful thing I have learned is less about specific content and more about how to think through a problem. This is a sophisticated way to answer any question about education or learning. It shows depth. You are not just describing what you studied, you are reflecting on what it gave you. 3. Everything suddenly clicked into place. The idiom for a breakthrough moment. Natural, fluent, and far more expressive than I understood or I managed it. Use it for any moment of sudden realization. 4. With this kind of disbelieving joy. 4 words that create a very specific emotional picture. Happiness mixed with shock. The word disbelieving is doing all the work. Use it for any moment of success that felt almost too good to believe. 5. Not just a mild unease, a genuine physical fear. This is a self-correction technique. State something, then immediately deepen it. The word physical makes the emotion feel real and embodied. Use this structure whenever you want to emphasize the true intensity of a feeling. 6. Endlessly patient. 2 words that say a great deal. Endlessly suggests the patience had no limit. It never ran out. This kind of precise adverb choice is exactly what separates Band 7 from Band 8. 7. For a few seconds that felt much longer than they actually were. Time distortion. Describing how a brief moment felt extended because of its emotional weight. Use it for any pivotal moment where time seemed to slow. 8. Not just as a memory, but as a reminder. The closing technique that reframes the entire answer. Lifts it from a simple story into something with lasting personal significance. Use this structure to end any personal cue card answer. Now, the part 3 phrases. These work across almost any discussion topic in the exam, not just this one. 1. It comes down to emotional intensity. Use this whenever you want to identify the single most important factor behind something. Clean, confident, analytical. 2. There is also a neurological dimension to this. Use this to reference science or research without needing specific data. It signals that you are thinking beyond personal opinion, which immediately elevates any answer. 3. Childhood gives us our starting conditions. It does not write the whole story. A balanced pair of sentences, one acknowledging influence, one resisting determinism. This kind of structured balance is exactly what Part 3 requires. 4. Better in some ways, worse in others, and the ways it is worse are perhaps less visible, but no less significant. The perfect closing structure for any comparison question. It acknowledges complexity, adds nuance, and ends on a considered judgment. 5. Absolutely fundamental, and one of the most undervalued aspects of. Use this opening for any topic where something important is being ignored or dismissed. Absolutely fundamental is far more powerful than very important. 6. Not as a reward for finishing work, but as work itself, a reframing technique. Takes something commonly seen one way and argues it should be seen another way entirely. Reframing phrases like this show original thinking, and original thinking is what the examiner remembers. That's all for now, and for more such videos, do subscribe this channel. We are uploading new videos every week. Download the free IELTS Band-Aid Phrase Bible. It has 300 phrases with 12 different sections. This will definitely help in your speaking test. With this, we come to an end to this video. See you around.